speaker for today. He's wehbe. He is a parent who specializes in psychology, and he is going to be discussing conscious parenting.
This is the one that works. Hi. First of all, I want to thank Terez, Tariq, and Leila for this really amazing effort and initiative, and Tariq and Leila for the presentation, and it was really inspiring, and what you went through and how you were able to change it. It was really inspiring. So really, thank you a lot. I want to tell you today. I want to start by telling you a story that happened with my eldest child, Alex, who's a student. A few years ago, he was around maybe 3 or 4. It's weird, I don't really remember the exact age, neither the exact problem or the exact mistake that he did that made us very angry at him and wanting to punish him and wanting him to say sorry because he did something wrong. It really affects me because it was technically our mistake how we managed it, and mainly mine. So he did something wrong. I honestly don't remember what was it, and my first reflex was, okay, you need to say sorry, and I'm gonna confiscate your favorite toy if you don't. And obviously he didn't. He started crying, and I got more angry, and then, okay, I'm gonna confiscate the second toy. And he got really more angry, started crying more. And I just couldn't stop it, and I was taking one toy at a time from him, and he was crying more and more. So I knew it was wrong, and just something stronger than me inside me that I couldn't stop. So I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stop it. And it's my field, right? So I start thinking, what's the difference? What's this gap between knowing what we're supposed to do or what we're not supposed to do and being able actually to do it? So there's this big gap, right? In everything, and in particular in parenting, which is a very complex thing to do and very hard, maybe as hard as what Leila and Tariq struggles at 7:30 p.m. We start at 6:30, guys. So we might know that we should be less punitive in our parenting and be more positively reinforcing as parenting, and mainly positively reinforce the effort more than the results. We might know that, but sometimes if we feel as parents lonely, sad, we have conflicts in our couple, we might have some tiny feelings of depressions, tiny one. It's very hard to apply the positive parenting, and we might feel intuitively going into the punitive parenting. So our negative feelings and emotions as parents will influence us. We might know what we should do, but it's hard to implement it. We might know that we should build the self-confidence of our kids. We should trust them. We should make them trust their body and health and organs and their physical and emotional and behavioral capacities. We might know that we should build that. But sometimes we have our own self-doubts. And when we doubt ourselves, when we have low self-confidence because we're humans, and we need to accept that, it's hard for us to nourish the trust and the self-confidence within our kids. So even though we know we should do it, but it could be hard to implement. And we know as parents that we should always stay calm and patient, right? But if we're anxious, if we're angry, if we're mad at things in our lives, it's going to be impossible to be calm and patient. And even though we know, just like the famous quote, calm down never calmed anyone down, right? It never worked, even though we know we should calm down, but it's hard to do it. So there's this huge gap, right? This big gap between knowing and being able to do. And it's a big part due to the subconscious mind, to our subconscious mind. So there is this part in our brain that's called the subconscious mind, and that initiates and triggers and creates emotions that creates that gap. And this subconscious mind is there even before we are born, and it starts being built. And did you know, for example, the child ranking, the birth ranking, if you're the firstborn, the secondborn, or the thirdborn, can by default influence so many things in your future adult form. It would influence what if you'd be an innovative person or a conventional person. It would influence if you're going to be happier or sad. It's going to influence if you're going to be prone to anxiety and depression or not. It's going to make you more self-confident or less self-confident. Just your birth ranking. And the worst part, some people can blame themselves for not being able to build a successful relationship, which is also highly influenced by the birth ranking, right? We can blame ourselves for not being able to do it, and we don't know that it's coming from our subconscious mind and it's influencing our behaviors and attitude and our interactions. And when we blame ourselves, it gets worse. It's like the cherry on top of the cake, that I like to call it the watermelon on top of the cake. When you feel guilty about something you cannot change, it's worse than the problem itself. So we should really stop the useless guilt and start thinking and being curious about, okay, what's happening there? So the subconscious mind would create a gap between what we know and what we should know, right? But it doesn't stop there, it gets worse. Why it gets worse? Because our subconscious mind and emotions will also alter our knowing, our capacity to know things. And it might make us neglect or disregard scientific facts and figures and universal norms. And our subconscious mind will make us neglect that and not see it. For example, the perception of danger within parenting. We might see as parents that this is dangerous, I'm going to get anxious about it, and I'm convinced that this is dangerous even though facts, figures, universal norms are saying the opposite. So the subconscious mind and the emotions will alter our perception of danger and will distort it in a particular way. So it's not just the gap between knowing and doing, but it's the knowing itself that gets affected. Some behaviors like blaming others, attacking others, snapping at others, avoiding certain situations can be highly related to deep guilt that we feel and we don't notice it. And we don't know even that this behavior is coming from that deep guilt. It goes below the radar of awareness and we don't even know that this is happening. So it's worse than the gap between knowing and doing. It's the knowing itself too. And this highly influences our kids' mental health and well-being. And we're just talking about the importance of mental health, right? So, and there are two more things we tend to do frequently. We transfer anxiety, for example, or we transfer emotions. I might feel anxious towards a particular thing that's happening in my life outside the parenting field, maybe in my social, personal, intimate, professional life. And I'm anxious about it. And I might transfer that anxiety to my child, to a particular situation related to my children. And where there is no room for anxiety here. I'm not supposed to be anxious. But the subconscious mind does that by reflex. It will transfer the emotions. And sometimes there is something that we call projection. Emotions that I have towards myself, mad at myself as a grown-up, or as a child, or as a teenager. I can be angry or mad at myself due also to other stuff happening in my life. And I might project this anger on my child, definitely on my partner too. We're not talking about that now. So, but I might transfer that to my child, project it on my child, and get angry at him because he did something wrong. And this is what children do. They do wrong things. This is how they learn, right? They fail their way to learning. This is the only path, by doing things wrong, and we get mad at them. So it impacts all the subconscious mind and feelings and emotions. It will drive our, what we call non-verbal communication, our body language as parents, our facial expression, our tone of voice. And some studies prove that up to 80% of the communication between human beings, and in particular with children, 80% is non-verbal, is our body language, facial expression, and tone of voice. And this is below our awareness. We're not aware, we don't know that this is happening, and it's influencing the well-being and the emotional well-being of our children. So the more us as parents, we are aware of our emotions, the more we can be confident, the more we can be happy as parents and not blame ourselves, but more tuned to a curious mindset to understand and grow as parents emotionally, the calmer and more patient we can be. So we can apply, what's that, 1 foot outside the circle, we can be and apply better parenting technique. And when we apply better parenting technique, we go back to our children and we will have a better mental health and emotional well-being within our children. And when we have that, we will have happier children. And when they are happy, they are more successful. Just like Tara and Layla, when they got happier because they had a purpose. And purpose is one of the main parameters of happiness, right? So when they started being happy, they became more successful, and they felt the success, and they didn't care if they're up at the summit or not, because they felt that they are at a summit. Today is their summit because they're happy. It's the other way around. It's not the success that makes us happy, it's the happiest that makes us successful, and they lived it, right? So we owe this to ourselves and to our children. So what to do? Step 1, we need to raise the level of our awareness. If we don't raise the level of our awareness, we're going nowhere. We're going to stay in the circle. We're not going to grow outside the comfort zone. So we need to build our awareness. And this is very challenging, because we need to question ourselves and we need to listen to others. And I call it the 3 P's to raise the level of awareness. First P, ask 5 people about your negative emotions and how your negative emotions are affecting your parenting. Ask them to give you your opinion, and ask them openly with curiosity and openness. Don't defend yourself. Just listen. Take information. The second P, ask your partner about your negative emotions, and vice versa, to be good. About your negative emotions, and about what does your partner think on how your negative emotions are impacting your parenting. And the third one, which is my favorite one, ask the pro. They will have a lot to tell you. Untaboo asking a pro. Go to a pro just like when you go to the dentist to check. Just like you do the yearly checkup with your GP or the family doctor. Just go to the pro and tell them, how do you manage this situation with your children? Let them ask you questions. How would you manage this or that? And let them give you insight about your negative emotions and how your negative emotions are affecting your parenting. And when you are aware, now you can start doing things to change. And sometimes being aware is enough to start and initiate the change. So once you're aware, now you can move to what you can do to manage your negative emotions. There's a lot that could be done. You can Google it, you can research. I'm going to share with you 3 basic tips. Journaling. once you are aware, journaling becomes effective. If you're not aware, you're journaling almost for nothing. But once you're really aware, you're journaling about your negative emotions and how your negative emotions are affecting your parenting. Second, talk, just like what Embrace we're talking about, right? We need to talk, we need to share. So to talk, we need to accept our negative emotions and we need to talk about them. And these techniques, journaling and talking, and mindfulness meditation, which is the last one, which is really worth investing time and effort to learn and apply 5 to 10 minutes per day. And what's amazing is that it's part of the curriculum in Eastwood. How amazing is that? Is that 5 to 10 minutes twice a day of mindfulness meditation is highly effective once we are aware. If we're not aware, it's not going to take us far. And by the way, on a side note, what I just said about parenting can work for anything else. Remove parenting, put career, job, relationship, the structure will still be the same. So if you apply all that, and after that journey of self-awareness, understanding the gap, filling the gap, building the bridge between the knowing and the doing, the version of the exact same situation with Alex would be totally different. So he did something wrong, I should go down on my knees, and we know that, right? But it's hard to do it sometimes. Go on our knees, hug him, tell him it's okay, we're learning, it's okay to make mistakes, and it's fine, it's just fine. We're learning, this is how we learn. So that would be the other version, but there's something sometimes stronger in us that would stop us. So I really hope I was able to trigger you and trigger your curiosity to discover your negative emotions and how your negative emotions are impacting your parenting. Thank you.